What up? What up? It is Alex, Fantasy Football Hustler, back with another running back start and sit installment. I'm breaking down every single matchup and every single fantasy relevant running back. I also mix in the tight end. If you want to jump to any matchup specifically, use the timestamps below. We got all 16 games going down, so I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet. Let's get into the 3 Thursday night games. The early game on Thanksgiving. We got the Lions taking on the Bears. An NFC North duel where they have one of the higher over-unders on the week, 48.5. I feel like that's hitting the under. And Detroit -10. Whew. That's a lot of points, especially with how bad Detroit kind of looked this past week, but I still think that they cover that. For the Lions running backs, we're deploying Gibbs and Monty. Chicago, giving up over 23 points a game to the running back. That's 21st. And if you look at their EPA, how it keeps getting higher. 25th for the season, 29th over the last 5 games. That means over the last 5 games, they've been giving up that booty to the running backs. That's why we're starting both with confidence on the Lions. It's the exact opposite when it comes to the Lions defense. Notice all the red. That means it is a horrible matchup for all the running backs. And because it's like the very first game of all these games, unless you're desperate, I don't want to play Swift. I'm not going to play Roshan. Only if you are desperate, because we have no teams on bye this week. And then for the tight ends on this game, I don't want to start Laporta. I don't want to start Komet. It's been bullshit how they've been using Laporta. The Bears kind of middle of the road matchup anyways. And the Lions are actually good at defending the tight end, especially since their bye week. So I just don't want to sit either of them. I don't want a Laporta headache. Next Thanksgiving game, we got the Cowboys taking on the Giants in Jerry World. One of the lowest over-unders on the week, 37.5. Cowboys, 3.5 point favorite at home. It's how trash the Giants are. Both teams giving up a lot of booty to the running backs. I will start Dowdle if I have to. Hopefully he's just like a flex guy for you this week. And I will start Tracy. The matchup is so good versus the Cowboys. We want to see a big bounce back game from Tracy. And even though we want a bounce back game from Tracy, the one thing I am a little bit nervous about over the last handful of weeks, the Cowboys have been defending the run a little bit better, but I think it's just because teams have been throwing on them a little bit more. And then for the tight ends, I don't want to start Shoemaker or Ferguson. I don't want to start a tight end against the Giants. They have been so bad for your tight end matchups. And then I don't want to start Theo Huxtable Johnson, even if he does play, or any other tight end on the Giants right now. And then our Thursday night football matchup, yes, it is between the Packers and the Dolphins. Straight pick them over here. Packers 3-point favorite. 47 is the over or under. I hope we get some high scoring games on Thanksgiving, because I feel like we're not going to. I feel like this one goes under as well. The Dolphins, they've been great against the wide receivers, but not against the running backs for the entire season. But if you look here over the last 5 weeks, they've actually been a lot better than expected at defending the running back. That being said, I'm still starting Josh Jacobs. Green Bay, middle against the road, defending the running back for the season, but over the last 5 weeks have been a really bad matchup for those running backs. That being said, I'm still starting A-Chain. Let's rock and roll. And for the tight ends, I'm going to start both tight ends. Jonnu, not the best matchup, but he's been on fire. Got to start him. And then Kraft, even in the bad matchups, he's been doing good. And Miami's actually a good matchup for the tight ends. So we got to start him. Let's do it. Now, before we get into the Sunday games, we got to talk about the Black Friday game. Yes, we get a game middle of the day on Black Friday. Pretty awesome. Hopefully it's a good game between the Chiefs and the Raiders, even though we know it's not going to be. 42.5 over under, going to be really bad. I don't expect the Raiders to do much of anything in this game. Chiefs are a 12.5 point favorite. I feel like they smashed that. Raiders have been a better matchup earlier in the season than they have as of late. We still don't know what's up with Pacheco. I'm recording this super early on Wednesday, so we don't even have any Wednesday practice reports yet. Whoever is the starter for the Chiefs, I'm going to play him, whether that's Pacheco, whether that's Hunt. The matchup should be so juicy for the running backs. If Pacheco comes back and play, I still would consider Hunt a flex option for this week. Now for the Raiders, you can start Abdullah if you want. I'm just leaning on sitting him. The only thing that he has to hope on is that he gets a bunch of receptions and he takes one of those to the house. Raiders could get shut out in this game, and they probably will. Kansas City at home on Black Friday. It's going to be ugly for the Raiders. And of course, we're going to start Kelsey. And I feel like we're going to start Bowers no matter what, but it's ugly. The Chiefs, they were a good matchup for the tight ends in the beginning of the season. over the last handful of weeks, they have not been that great of a matchup, but the tight ends are so bad that, yeah, I'm going to say start Bowers because I'd rather start Bowers versus any random scrub out there. I might potentially start Noah Gray over Bowers, though. It's that good of a matchup for the tight ends that you can start Kelsey and Noah Gray in this matchup. We got another divisional matchup. This one is coming from the AFC South. Jaguars versus the Texans. 43 is the over-under. Probably going under on this one. A lot of ugly matchups this week, regardless of what the over-under said. And Texans are the 5-point favorite. These teams are polar opposites. Jaguars, they're like the worst against the running backs. So deploy Joe Mixon, of course. Texans have been really good at defending the run. Last 5 weeks, though, been giving up more points than expected. I still don't want to start any of the running backs on the Jaguars. Really want zero part of the Jaguars right now. They're all in shambles, especially if it's Mac Jones. Who? Mac Jones. I might start Evan Ingram if I'm super desperate at tight end. Texans are a bad matchup versus the tight end, though. Really just because he gets force fed. That's about it. And then the Jaguars, they're like an amazing matchup for the tight ends. But Schultz, I don't know if I can start him. And then Stover, I don't know, man. I don't want any frozen food from Stouffer's. Like, yeah, I just can't do it. I can't start either one of these guys. Another ugly game on Sunday. This one's between the Patriots and the Colts. 42.5 over under. Colts are the favorite on the road. That's how bad the Patriots have been. A good matchup for both of the teams here. You'll notice if you're looking below that the Patriots over the last 5 weeks have not been giving up as many points as they were earlier in the season. Sucks, but we still got to start JT. It's a really good matchup to start Stevenson. Really just depends on how desperate you are because we keep seeing like the tale of two teams here. It's like Stevenson does great or he does shitty. There's no in between. And I feel like because we have everybody, if you have other options besides him, I'd be looking to sit him just because of how fluky it has been with him. But it's a really great matchup. And I feel like if you're in a 12-team league, you're going to start them. You're in an 8 or 10-man league, you might have more options, and maybe you don't have to start them. So I'll specify it that way. And then both teams on paper are good matchups for the tight end. I'll start Hunter Henry. I'm not starting Mo Alley Small or anybody else on the Colts, and I don't want to start Austin Hooper with everybody playing unless you feel lucky. How lucky do you feel? On to the next. All right, we got a matchup between the Falcons and the Chargers. 47.5 over under. Let's hope we get a lot of scoring in this game. Chargers are a 1.5 point favorite on the road. Chargers are a really bad matchup for the running back, but you'll notice over the last 5 weeks, they've been giving up a little bit more points than expected. Either way, we're not sitting Bijan. We're starting him. The one thing that sucks for the Chargers, it's not their matchup because over the last 5 weeks, Atlanta has been a great matchup for the running backs. If Dobbins plays, like, of course, we're going to play him, but we don't have too much clarification on his knee injury right now. And he's had a lot of knee injuries in the past. So hopefully he picked up Gus Edwards as a just in case because it is a good matchup. If Dobbins plays, I'm going to play him. If Dobbins doesn't play, Gus Edwards, I'm more than likely starting him, especially if I have Gus Edwards as the handcuff. Chargers have been a horrible matchup for the tight ends. So I'm just going to sit Pitts. And the Falcons have been a great matchup for the tight ends. I'll just play Disley. Very easy. All right, another non-divisional game. We got
the goddamn Jets
versus the Seahawks. Seahawks a 2-point favorite on the road. 41.5 over under. Another ugly game. Look at the chart. Crazy how both teams are kind of opposite of each other, right? Seahawks an above average matchup over the last couple weeks, but then turning into an average or maybe even below average matchup over the last few weeks. We're still starting Brees though. Then you look at the Jets defense, a below average matchup most of the season. Last 5 weeks, though, they've been a smash matchup for the running back. So we're playing Ken Walker with a lot of confidence this week. Regardless of tight end matchups, I really don't want to play anybody here. The Jets, they've been a bad matchup versus the tight end, so I don't want to start Noah Fant. Seattle's actually a good matchup. I'm just really nervous about Conklin. Depends on my level of desperation. I'll say start him if you got nobody else because it is a good matchup, but I really don't want to. I'm not going to start him over a lot of people, that's for sure. Another early Sunday game is between the Washington Commandos and the Tennessee Titans. Washington a 5.5 point favorite. 44.5 is the over-under. Not as bad as some of the others, but seems like it's going to be very blah. As far as the running backs go, we got a lot of question marks on Washington. Not really sure what's going to be happening with Brian Robinson and his injury. We're going to have to watch practice reports all week. Austin Eckler with the concussion, he's probably not playing this week because of that. We've seen guys get a concussion in 1 week and then play the next, but it's pretty rare. So if neither of these guys play, it's still a bad matchup versus the Titans. So I'm not just openly going to start Jeremy McNichols. It depends on your level of desperation. If Brian Robinson plays, I'll go ahead and play him. Outside of that, it's going to be a case-by-case basis on who you have on your team if I would actually start Jeremy McNichols as a flex guy, because you look at the Titans, they're below average matchup. When it comes to Washington, though, they have been giving up more points than expected. So I think with as many injuries that we have this week, even though there's no teams on bye, I think Tony Pollard is going to be an RB2, and I would start him. For the tight ends, I will play Ertz. Both teams here are good matchups. I'm only playing Chig if I'm super, super desperate. One fluky touchdown last week, and he gets no volume on a regular basis, so I really don't want to start Chig. But Ertz has shown us enough that we can have confidence in him, that's for sure. Just because we got so many games this week, we're going to take a quick pause. I'm going to remind you guys, come join the dopest fantasy community around at 420crew.com. Get advice, get in leagues, meet other people who are just as big as degenerates at fantasy football as you are. 420crew.com. Join for free, but I'd recommend joining as a paid member. You get access to a lot more. One more time, 420crew.com. Another early Sunday game. We got the Bengals versus the Steelers. This one's a straight pick 'em. Bengals 3-point favorite at home. 47 over under. I feel like it does not hit this. When these teams play each other, we see them really start grinding. I'm going to play Chase Brown, though. He's been so good. And the Steelers, if you look at the numbers here, just as time has gone on, they've just been giving up more and more points to the running backs. It's been the exact opposite, though, for the Bengals. So I'm really leaning on sitting Najee and sitting Warren. It's all going to be matchup based if you guys actually play them or not. As good as the Bengals have been, I don't want any parts of the Steelers running backs. Tight ends for both of these teams have been a crapshoot, so I'm just going to lean on sitting the tight ends for both teams. Bengals have been a decent matchup for the tight end. So if you're going to start one, I guess it would be Freiermuth, aka the Moose. But I really don't want to start either of them, though. All right, we got an NFC matchup here. The last game of the early slate of games on Sunday. Got the Vikings taking on the Cardinals. 45.5 over under. Hope it goes over. Vikings 3.5-point favorite at home. Pretty much a pick 'em. Cardinals have been a good matchup for the running backs. I'm going to play Aaron Jones. Vikings this entire season have been a horrible matchup for the running backs. So I'm just going to sit James Conner and the bunch over there, especially the way that the Cardinals have been looking. Their offense is definitely stuck in the mud right now. Cardinals have been a bad matchup for the tight end, so I'm not going to start Hawkinson. Minnesota is also not a good matchup for the tight end, but I'm going to start McBride because I feel like he's earned it. The first game of the afternoon slate of games, we got the Saints taking on the Rams. 48.5 over under. Man, I hope. Rams a 3-point favorite on the road. Both teams giving up extreme booty to the running back. Saints giving up a lot more than the Rams, but the Rams still a positive matchup for the running backs. So we're starting Kamara and we're starting Kyren. We're just rocking and rolling with those two guys. Saints have been a decent matchup for the tight end, but I'm not starting any Rams tight ends. And the Rams have been a bad matchup for the tight end. So I don't want to start any of the traditional tight ends, but because of how much the Rams just give up points and yardage, I do want to start Taysom Hill. Let's keep our fingers crossed that they actually use him like the Swiss Army knife that they did right before their bye. Because if they do, he's just going to be a solid start either week. If we know that he's going to get a handful of rushes, a handful of throws, and a handful of catches per game, he's going to be better than so many tight ends. Let's hope. We got another divisional matchup here. Panthers taking on the Bucks. Bucks a 6-point favorite on the road. 46.5 over under. I guess if the Panthers defense is so bad, the Bucks just might score 35 to 38 points just by themselves. So let's hope it hits the over. Bucks giving up a lot of points to the running backs. Some things have changed with their defense, but I would still start Chuba. And everyone who's still considering starting Brooks, can you just have one good game before you start him? Is that fair? Put fair in the comments if that's fair. Now, Carolina, man, they're just like the best matchup for running backs out there. So I'm going to start Rachaad White and I'm going to start Bucky, and screw Sean Tucker. Quit stealing our touchdowns from Bucky and Rachaad White. I'm going to play Otten. Great matchup for the tight end with the Panthers. And we don't know if Sanders is going to play. Jatavion Sanders, that is. So as of right now, I'll just say sit him. But the Bucks are a good matchup for the tight ends. Our last Sunday afternoon game. Ooh, this one should be a good one between the Ravens and the Eagles. 51 points is the over-under. Highest on the week. Let's hope it lives up to the expectations. We got two amazing running backs in this game going at it. The Eagles are a bad matchup against the running backs. So for that reason, I'm going to start Derrick Henry and Justice Hill. Feel like they just get him more involved. They're probably going to have to get a little bit sneaky against the Eagles, whose defense has been killing it. Then on the flip side, Baltimore, below average matchup versus the running backs, but that don't matter. We're starting Saquon Barkley, of course. Must-see TV right there. Then for the tight ends, both are bad matchups here. I'm going to start Andrews because he's so much of a red zone threat that I got to get him in the mix. I don't want to start Goddard. He just keeps disappointing us. So even though it's a good matchup, I really don't want to start him. Yes, we've been waiting all day for Sunday night, and we are here. Thanks for making it this far in the video. Hit that like, hit that sub. Got a matchup between the Bills and the 49ers. Hopefully Brock Purdy is there. It's going to be such a trash game if he's not. Might even be a trash game if he is there. 45 is the over-under. Buffalo's the 7-point favorite. Both teams have been giving up a lot of points to the running backs. So we're going to start James Cook coming fresh off the bye. And of course, we're going to start CMC. Very easy there. We're going to start George Kittle, regardless of quarterback. 49ers have been such a bad matchup versus the tight ends that I would just sit Kincaid. It really depends on who your options are. Because if you have no one, of course, start them. You got no other options. But if you have options, I'm leaning on sitting Kincaid. It is time for everybody's favorite game of the week, Monday Night Football. I don't know if this week would be considered the best game of the week because we got the Broncos taking on the Browns. 42 over under. Yuck. Broncos are a 5.5-point favorite. Cleveland is great at shutting down the run. So the only one that I would consider here would be Javonte Williams, but he would be a guy that I would only get in there based on the other guys that you have as running back, because I don't want to play him as a flex. So it's only if you're super desperate for an RB2. Denver, they've been in a plus matchup for the running backs, at least over the last 5 weeks, kind of middle of the road for the entire season. I'm only going to play Nick Chubb based on my options. I really don't want to play Nick Chubb, so he's more of a dart throw flex guy to me, even with what he did last week. I know it's cliche. Take away the 2 touchdowns, he didn't do anything. But if you like literally just take away the 2 touchdowns, he didn't have a lot of yardage. He didn't have a bunch of usage. That's what sucks about Chubb. Not a bunch of usage and not a lot of efficiency at all because their team just sucks. Cleveland's a decent matchup versus the tight end, but I'm not starting Adam Troutman. Denver is a really bad matchup versus the tight end, so I'm not starting Njoku. Since week 6, the only tight ends that have done anything to the Broncos came from the Chiefs. So yeah, I don't want to mess with Njoku, especially after last week. Look at how much of a flop he was in a really bad matchup. I don't want it, especially on Monday Night Football. Yes, and there you have it. We made it through all 16 games. Whew. Make sure you like, comment, hit the subscribe. Let me know what you thought of the video. I always like hearing your feedback. Throw it in as a comment. Don't forget to go join our community at 420crew.com. You want to stay in the loop for these playoff redemption leagues. It is leagues that go down for the NFL playoffs. It's a 3-week tournament. $20, $35, and $55 buy-ins. It's a big battle royale, and at the end, the top 3 teams are in the money. You do not want to miss out. It is going to be so fun. 420crew.com. And then don't forget to go check out the merch at 420crew merch. I appreciate all of the support. Go check out the waiver wire videos that dropped yesterday. And then I also got the same video going for wide receivers. And then I got the same type of thing going for the wide receiver starts and sits. Then I mix in the quarterbacks on those ones as well. Let me know if you like how I'm mixing in the quarterbacks and tight end, just like with the real quick hitters. Click on one of the videos that's popping up. We'll see you next time.